Hello and welcome back to the Sam Beast YouTube channel. My name is David Foxen, and as always, before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It not only helps out this video but also helps the channel out as well, and we've been growing a lot lately, so thank you very much. In our previous video we looked at ITAM resellers and what they are, and in that video we referenced managed service providers, or MSPs. We'll call them MSPs throughout this video because saying managed service providers again and again is a bit of a mouthful and will take up way too much time. So what is an MSP in the ITAM space? This is basically where you are outsourcing your IT asset management resources, goals, objectives, everything to another company. This may be because you don't have the bandwidth internally, you don't have the skill set internally, or you may not even have the internal headcount to be able to populate out your team, and the only way that you can get the resources you need and get the objectives done that are on your roadmap is by bringing in a third party or an MSP. In the ITAM space, the MSP pool is a lot less than the reseller pool, obviously, because ITAM is a bit of a niche, there's a skill shortage, etc, etc. But there are some really good MSPs out there that you should consider. Something that I will flag straight away with regards to MSPs, if you're looking to work with one or implement one within your organization, is that some managed service providers have a separate part of their business which also sells software licensing, contracts and hardware. Something to consider when you're looking at an MSP, because whilst the ITAM part of the MSP may say that they're independent and they're not and they're vendor agnostic, the reality is that part of their business may not be. Just something to consider, but there are still some really good MSPs that you can also buy software licenses from and hardware from. So MSPs in the ITAM space, these can relate to dedicated software asset management services, hardware asset management services, ITAM as a whole, software licensing, specific vendor software licensing, and in more recent times as well, I've seen a really big implementation on FinOps, because again, FinOps is really complicated. You might not have the internal skill set, but a lot of ITAM houses have hired FinOps professionals and practitioners who can come in and help your organization. When you're looking at an MSP for ITAM, another thing to consider is what your objectives and your goals are for bringing that MSP in. For example, it's great that there's an MSP that has a huge plethora of talent when it comes to Oracle licensing, but your Oracle estate is tiny and it's not even in your top tier vendors. Same again if, for example, you're looking for hardware asset management MSP, but the MSP has a big focus on SAM. It might not be the right MSP for you to achieve the goals and objectives that you want to. So what are the key things that you should be looking for when you're on the hunt for a managed service provider? Now, the first thing that I always tell clients or people that message me is look for that independentness. This isn't ruling out those MSPs that also have a branch of their business that sells licenses and hardware, because some of them genuinely are independent and can actually leverage that relationship they have with the hardware and software vendors to support you in an audit or to get you better rates when it comes to procurement or when it comes to contract renewals. And even technical support if you've got tech issues with the hardware or software that you're using through the MSP. Now, when I say independent, I really am looking for those MSPs that aren't really assigned or attached to a vendor. That's a really good start. Another part of the business might be, but I want their ITAM team to be completely vendor agnostic, tool agnostic, etc. I want them to be independent, and I want to know the skill set and the resources that they'll be using for my organization or my client. I want to know that they can walk the walk as well as talk the talk. I want to know that the skill set will match in with what I'm trying to achieve by bringing in an MSP. I want to know that they'll work efficiently as well. I don't want these long projects where something could have taken a smaller amount of time, but the MSP want to drag it out so they can make some more of that. I want to know that they're going to be efficient, effective, and genuinely consider themselves an additional part of the organization or the ITAM team that I'm, as an end user, currently working in. I'd like to see some case studies as well, and potentially talk to some of their other clients to understand how they've implemented ITAM, SAM, HAM, software licensing, FinOps, whatever the case may be. And I want to know how they've done it, how quickly they've done things, how successful it's been, and also ultimately what the ROI or return on investment that other client has had by using their services. A lot of ITAM is all about cost optimization, compliance, and saving money. I want to know that even if it's a time-based ROI, that by using this particular MSP, that they are reaping and have seen the benefits of bringing them in, as opposed to getting some resources in internally or just doing it yourself if you're a single ITAM professional in the organization. There are some huge MSPs out there that cover global as well. So if you're a global organization, this may be a big consideration for you, that you need global support and that global reach that the MSP will have. But there's also some localized ones as well that may be smaller in terms of the amount of resources they've got, but the resources they have are just pure quality. That's another really important consideration. Do you want to get things right, but it might take longer, and therefore you might need to use a smaller MSP? Or do you want things to happen quickly and have loads of resources that might not be done at the same standard as a smaller MSP? Now, I'm not saying that those bigger MSPs deliver a poorer standard than the smaller ones. It's just an observation based on what we've seen, particularly in Europe over the past 10, 15 odd years. If you go for one of those smaller MSPs, you do kind of feel like they're more invested in you because they have less clients. They can give you more of a focus, and it really does become a lot more bespoke than a general, we're a big MSP house, we know how this is done. Here's kind of like a blueprint service that we've done for other organizations that similarly work for you, and it's not as bespoke, it's not as personal. That's just, again, experience. But a lot of the big MSPs on the ITAM space, do offer bespoke and personal services based on what you're trying to achieve from it. I would highly recommend as well asking around on LinkedIn or your fellow ITAM peers who you may know about who they found to be really good. All these online reviews and stuff like that, they're not as good as asking people in person because they only naturally ask their most favored clients. So go around, ask around, see what their reputation's like in the ITAM space. There are small MSPs that, or even quite new MSPs in the space, haven't been around as long as some of the bigger ones, but their reputation is really high when you speak to ITAM professionals. Those people that have actually used them have found them to be really beneficial, and they would highly recommend them over one of the bigger, more well-known MSPs. Get that kind of information. That's incredibly valuable to you, and hopefully, regardless of those online reviews and stuff, speaking to your peers on a more personal level, maybe even over a call or even a physical coffee if you're geographically quite close, they'll be able to be a bit more honest with you on how they experience that MSP, their services, their level of expertise, and also how they helped the client when things may have gone a bit wrong. That's another important consideration to make. If you're going to get audited, for example, how will the MSP step in and help you? Is it part of their scope? Is it services that they can provide? Do they have the dedicated internal resources to help with those key vendors that you might get software audited for? If they've done something wrong, which happens, everyone's human, they may have done an update in the AMDB that doesn't quite work. How have they reacted to that? How have they fixed it? How have they reduced the amount of downtime or, not hindered your progress in achieving your roadmap or your goals? How have they fixed it, and how have you then proceeded moving forward? And how have they kind of not owned up, that's not the right word for it, but how have they put things in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again? And you'll get all of this information through speaking to other clients that they've got, other customers on a more personal level, because then they'll give you warts and all explanation of what actually happened in their experience. And finally, with some MSPs, they actually do kind of like a proof of concept or like a trial period where they can take certain actions or challenges or goals that you wish to achieve, and for a 30-day period or an X amount of month period, or even for that particular challenge period, they will try and show their worth to show how that their services are the best fit for your organization. And that's a great way of confirming it with your real organizational data, with your real life processes and stuff like that. Having that option is really useful rather than going gung-ho straight away, boom, we're paying you for 12 months worth of ITAM services, and then finding out once they're in place that actually it's not quite the right fit for your organization. Actually, all those resources that they said they had that were black belt in Microsoft or HAM or SAM or FinOps aren't quite up to the standard that you were sold. It happens. Believe me, it happens. So it's just something to ask if you're looking at MSPs. If you're doing an RFP on an MSP, we love an acronym, an RFP on an MSP for ITAM, boom, there we go. If you're doing an RFP for an MSP, then it's certainly worth asking if they can do a proof of concept for you to show you within your own environment how it works. That's really valuable information for you. And if you've got multiple MSPs that you're considering, give them the same challenge so that you can benchmark them accordingly, and it's a lot fairer when you're picking them. So in summary, managed service providers, MSPs, can be a gateway to helping you achieve your goals and objectives within your organization if you do not have the headcount, if you do not have the internal resources. And these MSPs can provide you with so much value, and they can be so key to you achieving your goals and even exceeding them moving forward as well. They may help you exceed your expectations for ITAM. Like I said, there are some amazing smaller MSP houses out there. Don't just write them out because they don't have, a huge LinkedIn presence, or they don't have a huge number of staff. The way that they work is they hand pick the staff that they have, and they're really good. And then those bigger MSPs that have relationships with hardware and software vendors may actually be a really good strategic move for you because you've got a big investment in Microsoft, and they're a Microsoft accredited gold partner, for example. So that may be a match made in heaven for you. Each organization has different requirements. Not everything is going to work how it worked in one organization to another one. Not all MSPs that worked in one organization are going to work for you. Everyone's unique, everyone's different. So make sure that you've got your checklist and your criteria on what you want out of an MSP, what your overall goals are, and how they can help you. Ask around, network, see who's got that good reputation within the ITAM space, speak to customers and clients of those MSPs that you're considering to get that warts and all view. And finally, of course, may ask them if they can do a proof of concept so that you can pick the right MSP for you. Or alternatively, pick small independent companies that might be able to help you, or a one-person band but deliver amazing ITAM services. Just saying, I'll leave that one with you. Hope you found this useful. Don't forget to go back and watch the reseller one to understand more about what resellers are in the ITAM space. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, happy ITAMing.